What's up, guys? Me and Larson are back. This is going to be the final episode of this series. We're going to do our week 0 picks tomorrow, but today we're going to do Big 12 and Pac 12. Easily two of the most unpredictable conferences, at least that I think. I don't see a lot of value here. I don't love a lot of these plays, but I got a couple up my sleeve at least, and I got some talking points.
Yeah, I haven't done a ton or hadn't done a ton of research on these conferences, but it's funny to look through them today, and I actually kind of found a few things I liked, but yeah, both of these are just absolute crapshoots. I guess so. We'll start with the Big 12. There are 7 teams. I counted 7 teams that I really wouldn't be stunned if they made the conference championship. If you went from Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas. I put those in a blender and just mix them up, and that you can draw 2 and take your conference championship right there. Baylor are the reigning champions and are at 7.5 for a win total. Like many of the other teams, I think they have a high ceiling, but I think they have just as much of a chance to go 7-5 as they do to go 10-3 or 10-2. So for me, it's kind of a stay away. I do really like their coach, though. He's a good guy, and obviously they had a great season last time.
Yeah, no, I'm going to ride with Baylor. I got them winning the conference. I got them at 10-2. Like you said, I don't feel too strongly about anybody, and I like Dave Aranda, so that's how I'm going to roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, they'll be super physical. They had a ton of close games last year. I mean, so many 3-point games, 4-point games.
Tough road schedule at Texas, at BYU, at Oklahoma.
Yeah, the BYU, I had that circled too. I don't know why these teams schedule BYU. I don't like it, especially going to
BYU must have a hell of a schedule this year.
Yeah, they do. It seems like every team plays BYU. I thought that was interesting.
Like Arkansas, there was another one I was looking at, like an ACC team, a pretty decent ACC team plays them too, I think.
They played. They played Notre Dame too. Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, they play Utah.
And yeah. So, I'll stay away. You like their over? That sounds good. Plus 650 to win the conference, if you like that. Iowa State, they are at 6.5. Last year, kind of had a love-hate relationship with them because I bet them a lot. Mainly that Iowa game in week 2, where I loved them and they turned it over, I think 5 or 6 times. But they lose Brock Purdy at quarterback. That might be a good thing for them. He was kind of all over the shop. And they really like this guy, Hunter Deckers, who's a sophomore. They really like him. I even have an Iowa State fan in my life who has talked about this guy for a few years now. So they like him. They do lose a lot of guys, but they have one of the sleeper guys in the country, a defensive end, Will Arnold, who is really, really good. But at 6.5, it's a stay away for me because I do like Matt Campbell. I think he's a really good coach. They could win 8 games or they could win 5 games.
Yeah, I have them at 6. That Iowa game is going to be huge. Week 2, they let me down last year, so I guess I got cold feet with them again. But they were turning the least amount of production in college football, 36%. Yeah, that's low. So I tend to be a little more bearish on them. I got them at 6-6. That's probably a little disappointing for them, but 6-6, 7-5, you're really splitting hairs there. I guess unless you ask the South Carolina fans that are crying that I have them at 6-6 instead of 7-5.
Well, it seems to me too, if you're going to bet Iowa State over, you've got to have them win that Iowa game, just given how unpredictable the conference is, which I guess could also mean that they show out, win a lot of games. I'm not gonna buy any stock in that though, so it's another stay away for me. Kansas.
Yeah, me too. Like I have Oklahoma and West Virginia beating them, and then I have them beating Oklahoma State, and then losing to Texas Tech. Like it's just the Big 12 just all over the place for me.
It'll be a lot of close games, yeah. Kansas, they are at 2.5 wins. They are used to being the doormat of this conference, but like we did with Vanderbilt in the SEC, I like the over 2.5 for the Kansas Jayhawks. They return 82% of their production, which is 9th in the country. I think that's a stat that really matters. I'm a big returning production guy. You have Tennessee Tech week 1. They can beat Tennessee Tech. They will host Duke Duke sucks. They should beat Duke. They will be favored against Duke. So there's 2 right there, and you got to pull off one more. I can't think of a better conference to need a really bad team to pull off an upset. It could be even Houston in
Maybe
week
the
3.
one we're talking about
it could
next.
Yeah, it could be legitimately any one of these games. I mean, we obviously saw it with Texas, and so I really like it. They have a really experienced team, though. Like I said, they return a lot of guys. They are experienced at quarterback. They went through 2 guys last year. They have a really good dual threat, Jalen Daniels, that's good. And I think the most important thing, though, is they like their coach a lot. They buy into their coach. Lance Leipold's a good coach. And so I think things are moving in the right direction. I will take over 2.5 for Kansas, which sounds disgusting, but it is what it is.
I could be talked into it, but I have them at 2 wins. I don't think they beat Houston. I don't think they beat West Virginia, Iowa State, TCU, Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Texas, maybe Kansas State at the end of the year. I don't know. It's hard to talk me into that, but
yeah, I will say
it's the same logic that I pretty much have with Vanderbilt. So.
Well, right, and they had last year on their schedule. They played TCU. We'll get to TCU in a second. I really like TCU this year. They played TCU last year and almost beat them. They almost beat West Virginia. They were in a handful of close. I mean, they're in a handful of close games. Like, I figured it's worth a shot with a more experienced roster and a coach that gets another year. I thought it was worth a look.
I understand the logic.
I'll lean it. Yeah, I'll lean the over there.
I definitely understand the logic.
Yeah, I figured it was worth a shot. In-state rivals, Kansas State. There has been a lot of just big Kansas State hype to win the conference. I've seen on social media, different things you read, different things you listen to, and I kind of didn't understand it, mainly because they have Adrian Martinez, a quarterback, and I just can't trust that guy at all. But we all know Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn is electric. People like him to be a Heisman contender if that's, if they get that far. But over 6.5 wins is definitely possible. I think I would lean that way between Martinez getting another chance, even though I don't really like him, and Deuce Vaughn. They have a really good defensive end who's one of the better guys in the country. And they had a lot of really close losses last year. Close losses seems to be the name of the game in the conference. They lost 3 games last year by less than 10 points. The biggest thing for me is you look at the schedule, they will be favored in 6 games, and that's not including a bunch of other coin flip games they'll have. So if they could really pull off one conference win, maybe get an Iowa State or a TCU or an Oklahoma State, then you get your over. So I would lean that way.
Yeah, that Missouri game week 2 is going to tell me everything I need to know. That's
which they should absolutely win. Oh god, if they lose that game. Yeah, if they lose that game, I'm worried about Kansas State if they lose that game. But yeah, I'd lean over. And then Oklahoma at 9.5. We know about Brent Venables. We know about Jeff Lebby and all the new faces on that team. I heard that more than 50% of their roster have never put on an Oklahoma uniform before, which is pretty amazing. Plus 190 to win the Big 12. Yeah, okay. So tell me your reasoning on that.
Okay, well, I look at the schedule. Obviously, they should be able to win their first 5 games. UTEP, Kent State, Kent read Kent State. That's one of my favorite things. Nebraska, they should take care of. Kansas State, TCU, I think they can handle TCU. Their first loss I have is against Texas and Red River. Should beat Kansas, and then they have Iowa State, Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. That's kind of a tough stretch. That's kind of a tough stretch down the end. Yeah, maybe they're a little bit more cohesive at that point, but yeah.
I think you can make a legit case, though, looking at all of their conference games, or at least most of their conference games. You can make a legit case that they lose any one of those. At Nebraska, Nebraska should be better. A lot of people like Nebraska there. Kansas State should be better. At TCU, TCU will be better. The Texas game is a coin flip every year. At Iowa State, anything could happen. Baylor's really good.
Baylor
at West Virginia.
Home.
Yeah, that's big. And West Virginia almost went to Norman last year and beat them. And they're at West Virginia this year.
I have West Virginia and Oklahoma State winning Bedlam. Those are the 2 of the 3 losses that I have for them. I got them losing 3.
Yeah, I think it's Oklahoma. You could absolutely see Oklahoma winning 8 games or they could win 10 or 11 games. So I don't know. It's another stay away for me. I don't really want to touch them in the win total or in like a futures or anything like that. So I'm staying off. But Oklahoma State was a team there at 8.5 for win total that I really liked earlier, kind of in the offseason, thinking like I could bet them to win the Big 12, but losing Jim Knowles kind of scares me away. I like Derek Mason as a replacement as defensive coordinator, but it's not Jim Knowles. Spencer Sanders is a really good quarterback, but he turns it over a lot, and they lose a lot of guys on defense. So for me, I kind of went from really liking them at plus 550 to win the conference to staying away. I hate their road schedule in the conference at Baylor, at TCU, at Kansas State, at Oklahoma. You like them beating Oklahoma, but this is a stay away for me.
Yeah, Bedlam's another one where I kind of just enjoy betting Bedlam, and I like Oklahoma State. I think they're well coached and easy out of conference schedule. They got Central Michigan, Arizona State. They should. We'll get to Arizona State in a minute. I have some very strong feelings on Arizona State and Arkansas Pine Bluff. They should handle all three of those teams.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, you just look at all these conference games, and they really all are just coin flips. So it's something that I don't feel very strongly about.
It is. That's the toughest part of this. But Mike Gundy, he's consistently pretty good. So I don't know. I'm not going to take that. We will get to TCU at 6.5. I guess we really like TCU. My first bet I made in this conference was getting TCU plus 1,500 to win the Big 12. They're now at plus 1,200. I think that's an easy hedge if they were to make the conference championship game. And the reasons are simple. They return more than 80% of their roster, top 10 in the country. You have at the quarterback position, Max Duggan, a guy who is very experienced, has been around the Big 12 for 4 years now, gone through the in and outs of all the places. Behind him is Chandler Morris, who's a really highly recruited freshman. That is still a battle at quarterback, but they like both of those guys. And then the rest of the roster, just really good guys, upperclassmen, guys who have played a lot of football before. Gary Patterson was a good coach, but they got tired of him real fast. He'd been there a long time. They bring in Sonny Dykes, who I think the players really like. He fits their system. He's a Texas guy. He can recruit Texas. And I think their schedule outside really
they
of the
play SMU week 3.
That's a big game, but I think all those games are winnable. They'll play Colorado and they'll kill Colorado in week 1.
Awful.
They could beat SMU, and then you just have to kind of go
Tarleton
through the ins and outs
State.
of the coin flips. Tarleton State, they should be Tarleton State. Yeah, it's a team that I really like. I think they can definitely win over 6.5 games. I think they can definitely make the conference championship.
It's like this, because I kind of just I did my research. They are eating each other alive, man. Half of this conference, I think the best conference record I have is Baylor at 7-2. There's 3 tied for 7-2, 1 6-3, and then like 3 at 5-4. I think they're just gonna eat each other alive.
Yeah, they really are. It makes it really tough. I think the other thing is, so like last year they went 5-7. It was just a really bad year for them, but they lost to SMU on a Hail Mary. So there's one win that they could have gotten. And then they lost to Texas by 5 in a game where Texas scored at the very end. I had TCU plus 5.5, so I barely got that one. But those are 2 close losses. And I think the biggest thing that I failed to mention is they bring in a guy named Joe Gillespie at defensive coordinator who is really, really good at what he does. He was at Tulsa and made Tulsa's defense very good for a few years. So that's a huge hire. I'm really high on TCU, though, for sure. I really like them. So I guess we both are.
Let's see who we got next.
Up next is Texas.
Yeah.
Texas Longhorns.
This is the big one.
Yeah, they're at 8.5. I have no strong thoughts on them.
I got them at 9, and with the way the Big 12 goes, it's just something I can't really trust. Obviously, I'm going to pencil them in as a loss for Alabama. Yes. Anybody that's hyping up Texas to beat Alabama, I advise you to slow your roll just a little bit. They'll handle UL Monroe. They'll handle Texas San Antonio, and then you get Oklahoma State at home. You get Kansas at home. We know they've had trouble with Kansas prior years.
No, they're at Kansas,
and then. Oh, yeah, no, they're at Kansas. Sorry, I was reading that backwards. Yeah.
As if that
They've
makes
had problems
a huge
with Kansas
difference.
in But you do get Baylor and TCU at home. You get Iowa
Yes.
State at home. You do have to go to Oklahoma State. And you get West Virginia at home. So they got some decent home games. I don't think 9's the craziest bet, but 8.5. I'd love them at 7.5. I don't love them at 8.5.
Yeah, if you have 9, if I had 9, I would play an under on that. I think, are they going to win 10 games? Are they going to win 10 games and you're going to lose that? I really don't think so.
I got 3 pretty confident losses on here. I'm pretty confident that Baylor, TCU, and Alabama can all beat them. And then you still got Kansas State, Oklahoma. I have them beating Oklahoma, and I have them at 9 wins.
So I see 8.5, but I'd go ahead and make under 9 like an official play for me on Texas. I really would. Yeah, that's what I would do. And then to Texas Tech, who is just kind of an utter rebuild mode. Joey McGuire, first season at head coach. They are coming off of a 7-6 season. I don't I read about Texas Tech and I still kind of know nothing about them. So I don't know.
Brutal out of conference schedule.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Do you have anything on them?
Yeah. Apparently the guy they got, he is he's a points guy. The new the offensive coordinator, Tim DeRuyter, a defensive coordinator.
Tim DeRuyter, yes.
Yeah, then Zach Hitley from Western Kentucky. But everywhere Hitley's been, he's aired out. So they'll score. I don't know much about their win total. I do have them at 6 wins. I do have them losing to Houston and to NC State, but I have them beating Kansas State. I have them beating West Virginia. I got them beating TCU in an upset. I got them beating Kansas, Iowa State. I just feel like they're going to be one of those teams that'll pick off a couple wins like that.
They are. If there's one team, I guess, other than TCU for me, but if there was one team that could really just screw things up in the conference, it would be Texas Tech for sure.
Frisky. Still have Tyler Shue as well,
very
if
frisky.
I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right. Tyler Shue, a quarterback. Their win total is 5.5. I got absolutely nothing for that. Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to monitor.
I got him at 6. I won't touch it, but I would say if you made me pick, I'd probably say over. I think they can string a couple together, which is crazy because they're probably going to lose 2 out of conference games. At least.
Yes, 2. Exactly. Yeah, that's the craziest part. West Virginia, our guy JT Daniels now at West Virginia. I also did not realize they have Lynn J. Dixon from Clemson as their running back. I had no idea until just now.
I didn't know that either.
Their win totals at 5.5. I don't really have a strong opinion on them. Their non-conference schedule scares me away when you're at Pittsburgh and at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is iffy, but a game you don't want to go on the road and play. And then they play Kansas early in the season. Could be interesting. 5.5 scares me away. I got nothing.
This is probably I don't love it, but I'm gonna be bold here. I'm gonna have some fun. I got them beating Pittsburgh week 1, and I do have them going into Blacksburg winning and starting the season 4-0 before they lose to Texas.
Yeah, no, I would say
I don't think it's crazy to think they could beat Pittsburgh. But
Yeah.
I think Virginia Tech may end up being a tougher game just because of the atmosphere. But then you look at that. I mean, then they lose to Texas, Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU. That's 4 losses in a row. Then I have them beating Iowa State and beating Oklahoma. And then they lose to Kansas State and Oklahoma State to end the year. So a little up and down, but it's the Big 12. Who knows?
It is. I'm rooting for JT real hard there, though. I'd love to see him do well. And I think there's a high ceiling with him. He's worked with Graham Harrell before at USC. Graham Harrell's an offensive coordinator. So there's a world where that goes really well and they can win a few games.
Definitely.
Overall, who's your pick to win the Big 12?
I'll go Baylor. I think Baylor's got the best value.
All right. I'll go, speaking of value, I'll go with TCU. TCU's my pick. I just for value standpoint. Yeah.
This is fun because you could pick any team, and it's really not that dumb of a pick. There's no crazy picks on here, really.
The light version of the Big 12 is the Pac-12. And since that there's not 7 teams in the Pac-12 that can win the conference, but there's 4. I think you can make a case for 4 or 5. I'll start in the Pac-12 North here with Cal. I don't have a lot to say on Cal. We can just move past Cal. I got nothing. They're 5.5.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, nothing. 5.5. Take the under. A lot of freshmen. That's all I can say. Oregon. So I didn't realize Oregon at 8.5. I did not realize kind of how much I actually liked them until I did the research here.
I do
We
too.
know
They
about
besides Georgia,
yeah,
they got a pretty solid schedule.
yeah, and we like Dan Lanning a lot. I think Dan Lanning is a really gonna really be successful. He has all
God,
the
they play
priorities
BYU
right.
too.
They play BYU too, which is crazy. But yes,
That's
the
dangerous.
conference schedule, they avoid USC, which I think is big, but their road schedule is as easy as you're going to get with at Washington State, at Arizona, at Cal, and at Colorado, and at Oregon State. Avoid all of the big guys at home. All of your toughest games in conference, UCLA, Utah, are going to be in Eugene. Washington is in Eugene. They play BYU there. So all of your tough games are at home. And they've got a really talented.
I got them
they're the
losing to
most
Georgia
talented
and
team.
Utah.
Yeah.
That's the only two losses I got for them.
Yeah, there's a ton of talent. The only thing that scares me away, because I do like the over, the only thing that scares me away from it is, what if crazy things happen, you lose to Georgia and BYU, and you're at 2 losses? I don't think I really want to touch that. I will play them to win the Pac-12 though at plus 300. I'll do that for Oregon.
Yeah, and even if you look at the rest of the schedule, even if they lose to Utah, or let's say they do lose to Georgia and BYU, and they lose to Utah, you're still at 9.
Yeah.
But there's little room for error in a team that is notorious for fucking up a completely random game in the middle of the stretch. So.
Well, that's the Pac-12. They could be 24-point favorites against Washington State and lose. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Oregon State, you said you like Oregon State, and I have absolutely no opinion.
I think Oregon State's frisky. I think they're frisky. So here's the thing. Okay, so I think they're going to lose their first 2 games. They open with Boise State and Fresno State. I think they'll lose both of those. But here's the thing with Oregon State. They're only set at 5.5. They looked kind of respectable last year, better than like usual. They're bringing back all of their coaching staff and their quarterback. They're bringing back 3 of 5 O-line starters that were part of a Joe Moore Award finalist crew, and 4 of them are all conference, first or second team. These are things I can work with.
Yeah.
And I think they could be frisky in a bad conference because you look at the rest of the teams: Cal, Colorado, Arizona State, awful teams. They get Washington State at home. They get Colorado at home. They have to go to Washington. They get Cal at home. They go to Arizona State. Yeah, okay, so you lose to Boise State, Fresno State, USC, Utah, Oregon. You win the rest of those and you're 7-5.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing that scared me. I took one look at the schedule. I was like, I could never bet an over on a team that plays Boise State and Fresno State non-conference. I couldn't do it. But I do respect
I definitely
your
understand
opinion.
that. But I think they will be frisky. I'm going on record saying Oregon State will be frisky.
Okay. My frisky team will come later in this division. Stanford is at 4.5. David Shaw is still the head coach there. And as much as I like teams with returning production, Stanford is 88% returning production, 3rd in the country. This is a huge under for me at under 4.5. I actually bet it under 4.5 and under 4. Reason being, they return 10. Well, this isn't the reason why I bet the under, but it's an interesting fact. They returned 10 starters on offense. They replacing their running backs. They lost their top 2 running backs, and Tanner McKee is a really good quarterback, NFL caliber quarterback. But defensively, they returned 5 starters. The defense is really bad. Defense was 114th in the country last year. Gave up points to anybody they played. And then their schedule, they will open with Colgate, which is
they played 10 straight after the bye.
Yes,
that is so crazy to me.
So I think,
and they play BYU. Everybody fucking plays BYU.
Everyone plays BYU. Everyone in the FBS plays BYU this year. After Colgate, you're getting USC, at Washington, at Oregon, Oregon State, and at Notre Dame. That to me is 1-5, a 1-5 start. That's not even including at UCLA, Washington State, at Utah, or BYU.
At Utah.
There's no way, man. There's no way this team is winning 5 games. Tanner McKee is going to have to win the Heisman for them to win 5 games. He's going to have to be perfect. Everything else just is in shambles to me. So I'm taking an under on it. I really, really like it.
Yeah, I had him at 5.
Take it under 5. My God, take that under 5. Yeah.
I actually think I messed this up because I do have them beating Utah. Maybe that was just me trying to put a loss on Utah because I think I had them with too many wins, but I don't think they will beat Utah in Salt Lake City.
But they could. That's the Pac-12, is they could.
That
You
is the
just
Pac-12.
you don't know.
That would be the
Yeah.
perfect 3-win Stanford going into Salt Lake City, one of the toughest places to play in college football, against undefeated Utah and getting a win.
Yeah, and absolutely threw a wrench in under 4.5 for me. I really like that number though, for sure. If you could find under 5 for Stanford, that's a big play for me. Washington at 7.5. This is just a tale of two completely different seasons. Last year they're 4-8. They lose to Montana in week 1 and get killed by Michigan week 2. But now at 7.5, I actually lean the over to Washington. I think the biggest thing would be you bring in a new coach. Kalen DeBoer was at Fresno State. You bring him in. He is an offensive-minded coach. You upgrade quarterback Michael Penix from Indiana. Has worked with DeBoer before. So the offense, I think, will be a lot better. Offense, they struggled. They struggled to score 3 touchdowns a game last year. And the offense, there's talent on the offense. They'll be a lot better with new leadership. The other thing is that their schedule is pretty favorable. Looking at what is it here? I mean, you're going to play Colorado, which is an easy win. You'll play Arizona, which is a win. The only game that really worries me would be at UCLA and at Oregon. Other than that, every game is winnable, even Michigan State in non-conference. So I do like over 7.5. I think they could probably win 8 or 9 games.
I got them at 6, but I do have them losing to Stanford, which is a toss-up for me. And you look at some of these games too. They should handle Arizona. They should handle Arizona State. Colorado should be pretty bad. We'll get to all those. The other side of that division is pathetic.
Yeah.
I just have so many question marks with them too. I don't know that much about them either because the whole Jimmy Lake thing.
Yeah,
it ended so abruptly, and I just don't know that much about Washington, and so it's a stay away from me.
I feel like you have Stanford and Texas Tech beating everyone. That sounds.
I just have them causing a couple problems for some teams. I feel like they were my team where I looked at it at the end and I was like, well, they only have 2 wins. I was like, and I need some more losses for some other people. And since these conferences are so damn unpredictable,
yeah, Stanford having 2 wins is not outrageous. My frisky team, you liked Oregon State. My frisky team is Washington State.
Really, I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so the reason being they're at 5.5 for their win total. The biggest reason is they bring in this kid at quarterback from Incarnate Word named Cameron Ward, who just lit up FCS last year. Great numbers, and he's electric. So I think he's going to come in and do really good things with a team that returns 6 starters on each side of the ball, which is pretty decent. Their offense was not as bad last year as you would think it is. It was top 80. Their defense was top 65. So they were kind of doing good things, and you have guys now, upperclassmen coming back with a lot of experience, a new quarterback. I have no idea who their coach is. I've never heard of this guy. Jake Dickert is their coach. He spent half the season as their coach last year. But it's the Pac-12. You're going to have a lot of winnable games. Idaho, Colorado State, California. They're at Stanford, which does not worry me that much. At Arizona. I just think there's a lot of winnable games. And outside of your Oregon and USC and Utah and Washington, which is 4 losses right there.
That hurts them, man. Wisconsin, Oregon, Cal, and USC in the first 6 games.
Yeah, but Cal, they'll beat Cal. They can beat Cal. Cal is made up consistently.
They do have a really bad roster. They have a bad roster, but I do like Cameron Ward. I think he's crazy good. Yeah. He'll be exciting to watch.
There's going to come a time too. The other thing out of those teams that are really good, the Oregon and USC's, all them, there's going to come a time where it's 12:30 in the morning and they're winning at halftime, and you kind of have to pay attention to it. I just think it's possible. So I would lean to the Washington State over because I think they can cause a lot of chaos. Into the Pac-12 South, which, as you said, is just horrendous. Outside of the 3 favorites, starting with Arizona, who went 1-11 last year.
I got them going 1-11 again.
Yeah,
Arizona's all 3 of their non-conference games.
Yeah, I think that's definitely North Dakota State is that's definitely possible. Their 1 win last year, they beat California 10-3. So this is a bad team. Jed Fish is a decent coach, but it's a very bad team. So go ahead.
You got San Diego State week. What? They're not going to beat San Diego. San Diego State is probably more deserving of being in the Pac-12, at least football-wise, than Arizona right now.
Yes.
Mississippi State, they're not beating Mississippi State. North Dakota State, I don't think they're going to beat. And then I think their only win, who do I have? I think I got them beating Colorado. Yeah, I got them beating Colorado week 5. That's all I got.
I think that actually is a really good bet to beat Colorado, because Colorado is going to be just absolutely horrible. The San Diego State game week 1 is a very, very suspicious spread. I want to say it's San Diego State minus 5.5. It's at San Diego State. It feels weird. I'm not going to touch that, but yeah, Arizona should be very bad. Arizona State at 6 or 6.5 wins. I have nothing for this. This is a total dumpster fire to me with Herm Edwards.
They're
Emory
in trouble
Jones.
too. Like
Yeah. It's just absolutely nothing for me. So I'm staying away. I don't even want to look at it.
I got a few upsets on here, but out of conference, I mean, they draw Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's probably going to crush them. They do get Northern Arizona and Eastern Michigan. I don't know much about Eastern Michigan this year, so they could win 2 out of conference games, but I got them finishing 4-8. It's pretty generous, honestly.
It is.
I think they're okay, but I mean, they had so much go on this offseason, and they just look like they're in total disarray. I cannot bet them to go over. Just can't do it.
Never. I also Colorado here at 3 wins. Another one of my favorite bets in this conference at the under. I actually bet it under 3.5 and under 3. I mean, where to start with this team? They have no talent, really, for a lack of a better word, no talent on the roster. Nowhere where they stand out. They returned 3 starters on defense. Offense, it's not like the offense returns a lot of guys either. Their coach, not a great coach. He's kind of just a guy who was there. Mel Tucker left, and they just brought this guy in randomly. Non-conference schedule, TCU, at Air Force, at Minnesota. Air Force is going to win their conference, and those games suck. They're going to lose all 3 of those. There's
really, I had them beat after that. But
wait, say that again.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I had them beating Air Force. That was one of their 2 wins for me, but I didn't know Air Force was. I didn't know Air Force was like that this year.
Yeah. If we do a group of 5 show, Air Force plus 300 to win the Mountain West is one of my favorites. I don't see Colorado winning any of those games. You follow that up with UCLA and at Arizona, who Arizona should be better, and they can win that game. That's an 0-5 start. And then you still have Utah, Washington, USC, and Oregon State on the schedule. There's just no chance, man. I mean, this team has no talent. They were absolutely gutted by the transfer portal, especially on defense. So it's a huge under for me. I love the under.
I got them beating Arizona State. That's it.
Yeah. I think there's maybe 2.5 winnable games on the schedule. So I love that under. UCLA at 8.5. This was a team last year I really liked. I had their over, and they cashed that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is back at quarterback. He will forever, for the rest of time, be UCLA's quarterback. Chip Kelly has been there for 4 years now. And at 8.5, I don't have a bet on it. I do like that they get USC, Utah, and Washington all at home. But it's not like the Rose Bowl's winning anybody any games in the Pac-12. So it's a stay away for me. I do like UCLA, though, and think they could be good.
They're also bringing back Zach Charbonnet, who I guess will be their running back forever as well.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't play a team in the top 85 of FPI until week 5, and that's Washington. So they could be 5-0 easy.
That's a great stat.
In between, and they get their bye between Utah and I don't know if they'll win either of those games, but they do the bye there. It's noteworthy. So, yeah, I think it's definitely an easy schedule, I would call it. They should handle Stanford, should handle Arizona State, Arizona. I think USC will get the better of them. Finish off with Cal, 9-3. I think that's a pretty successful season if you're UCLA.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't bet the over, but I agree on that. USC at 9.5. They've obviously been like the celebrities of the offseason. Everybody talking about them. Lincoln Riley, the transfer portal, blah, 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 blah. Caleb Williams. 9.5. I wouldn't want to touch this at all. There are just way too many new faces on this team for them to go 10-2.
On the same
which
way.
they could do. Yeah, they could do it. I'm not going to bet that to happen. They're at UCLA. They're at Utah. They play Notre Dame. I mean, those could be 3 losses right there outside of the fluke loss they're going to have because it's the Pac-12. So
I might
I'm staying
pre-bet
away.
Fresno State to give them a scare. I might pre-bet.
It's a
Florida State
great,
to give them
yeah,
a scare.
yeah. I agree.
If they're like 21-point favorites over Fresno State, I'm taking Fresno State.
The other thing, which I
see.
totally like that logic, but they return one guy. One guy is going to be starting on their defense who was there last season, and then they bring in Alex Grinch at defensive coordinator. Like that guy gave up 70 points a game in Oklahoma. He's supposed to change and be better in the Pac-12. I don't get it. I'm staying away.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then the last one, Utah at 9 wins. I actually do kind of like Utah in terms of I root for them. I think they have a lot of talent. I like their quarterback a lot, Cam Rising. We saw them in the Rose Bowl last year. They lose that shootout to Ohio State. I don't have a bet on it, but I would blindly lean over because I think that they could be the best team in the conference.
I think they're going to lose to Florida week 1. The public being all over them is really starting to worry me. I think Florida's going to get them. I think Florida's going to get them week 1. But you get USC and Salt Lake City. I think they can go into the Autzen Zoo and beat Oregon. I think they can. We'll see.
They did last year,
or the rest
maybe not last year, but they showed last year they can beat Oregon both times. So yeah.
And I don't see anything on the schedule here that's really moving me other than that. So
yeah. The Florida game is going to totally set the tone right there. If you have the over, don't even bet the Utah over. Just bet them to beat Florida, because if they don't beat Florida, they're not going to go over.
No, absolutely.
At least that's my take on it. Yeah, if I had to bet to win the conference, my favorite bet here to win the conference would be Oregon. My favorite win total is probably Colorado or Stanford under for me.
In terms of just, being a front runner, I think Utah is probably the safest bet. I know what Kyle Whittingham is.
Yes.
Lincoln Riley is basically going to be playing with like an AAU football team with all these guys they probably barely ever played before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to squat on this right now. Fresno State might scare them a little bit. We'll see. We'll see.
I do like that.
That's such a classic, early game for everybody to freak out about USC over if Fresno State keeps it within 2 touchdowns or something.
Well, I can't. So they did it to UCLA last year, where they beat UCLA last year, Fresno State. And then I can't remember if was Oregon last year. They played Oregon either last year or 2 years ago and almost beat them too. So they tend to do that.
And Jake Haener, I like Jake Haener. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of quarterbacks who are going to be there forever, Jake Haener. All right, we are getting the week 0 bets ready, so we will do that tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, we'll record it tomorrow. By the time you're hearing this, we'll probably be recording that, so we'll have it up ready for the games. Little teaser. I like Illinois -11. That's my play so far.
Oh, you're speaking my language. The first half is calling my name. Yeah, we'll get into that. I like that for sure.
All right, cool. Well, we appreciate y'all listening as always. That wraps up the Power 5. I don't know if we'll have time to do a group of 5. We maybe, if we catch a wild hair, we get some topics we really like. Maybe. But we'll be back with week 0 picks. Appreciate it.